In part 2, everything shattered. Lena was kidnapped, told Jaehyun had betrayed her, dragged out to die. But he came. Broken, bloody, desperate. He came. And just when she thought she understood him, the truth exploded. Jaehyun is the Ghost King, Seoul's most feared executioner, the man who should have killed her the night they met. Then Minjun, one of Jaehyun's own men, turned his gun on Lena. Jaehyun stepped between them, and in that frozen moment before chaos, a gunshot screamed through the night. Now this is part 3. The night the past catches up. The night Lena learns she was never random. The night someone from the shadows steps into the light. And the night she realizes the most dangerous person in her life might not be the Ghost King at all. New here? You're about to walk into the most intense chapter yet. Go back. Watch part 1 and part 2 first. Trust me, you'll need to know how we got here, because after tonight, nothing will ever be the same. The gunshot tore through the night like the sky splitting open. Lena's scream caught in her throat, strangled by terror so pure it turned her blood to ice. Everything slowed, the world tilting sideways, sound distorting into a muffled roar, her vision narrowing to a single point of horrifying clarity. Someone was falling. She saw the body drop, saw Minjun's expression freeze mid-sneer, saw the dark bloom of blood spreading across his chest like spilled ink. His gun clattered to the concrete, useless, forgotten. His knees buckled, and he crumpled forward, hitting the ground with a wet, heavy thud that echoed through the warehouse. But Jaehyun hadn't fired. His gun was still holstered at his hip, his hands empty, his body already in motion, lunging toward Lena with a speed that defied reason. His arm wrapped around her waist, yanking her backward, and suddenly she was pressed against his chest, his other hand cradling the back of her head, forcing her face into his shoulder. "Don't look," he commanded, his voice rough and urgent against her ear. "Don't look at him." But she'd already seen the blood, the stillness, the way Minjun's eyes had gone empty, staring at nothing. Chaos erupted around them. Shouts from Jaehyun's remaining men, boots pounding against concrete, the metallic click of weapons being drawn. Dust swirled through the air, disturbed by sudden movement, and somewhere in the distance, a door slammed. Lena's mind reeled, trying to piece together what had just happened. Minjun had been standing there, gun pointed at her, words dripping with cruelty, and then he was dead. Just like that. 1 second alive, the next gone. But if Jaehyun didn't shoot him, "Sir!" One of the lieutenants appeared at Jaehyun's side, breathing hard, eyes scanning the darkness. His name was Sung-ho. Lena remembered distantly, one of the few men who'd ever looked at her with something other than cold calculation. "Are you hit? Is she?" "We're fine." Jaehyun's grip on Lena tightened protectively, and she could feel his heart hammering against her cheek. Could feel the way his breathing came just a little too fast, despite his controlled tone. "Check the perimeter. Now." "Sir, the shot came from..." Sung-ho gestured upward, toward the broken windows high on the warehouse wall. "Outside. Someone was watching. Someone with serious range and accuracy. That shot was at least 300 meters, through a narrow window in low light. This wasn't some street thug. This was professional." Jaehyun went absolutely still. Lena felt it, the way every muscle in his body tensed, coiled, ready to strike. When he spoke again, his voice had dropped to something cold and lethal, something that reminded her exactly who and what he was. "Get every man we have on this. I want that building swept. I want the trajectory mapped. I want shell casings, footprints, anything that tells me who just interfered in my business." He paused, and his next words sent ice down Lena's spine. "And I want to know why they're protecting her." The men scattered, disappearing into the shadows like smoke. And then it was just the two of them, standing in the aftermath, tacked with Minjun's body cooling on the ground a few feet away and the weight of impossible questions pressing down on them. Lena's hands were shaking. Actually, her whole body was shaking, trembling so hard she thought her legs might give out. She tried to pull away from Jaehyun, but his arms stayed locked around her, immovable. "Lena," his voice was softer now, but still edged with something dark and dangerous. "Are you hurt? Did any debris hit you? Glass?" She shook her head, not trusting her voice. Her throat felt raw, like she'd been screaming, though she couldn't remember making a sound after that first aborted cry. "Look at me." She didn't want to. Didn't want to see his face. Didn't want to confront what had just happened. Didn't want to exist in this nightmare for one more second. But his hand moved to her chin, gently but firmly tilting her face up until she had no choice. His eyes were wild, pupils blown wide, and there was blood on his face. Not his own, she realized distantly. Spatter from when he'd fought the kidnappers earlier. He looked like something dragged up from hell, beautiful and terrifying all at once. And beneath the controlled exterior, beneath the Ghost King mask, she saw something that looked almost like fear. "Stay behind me," he said so quietly she almost didn't hear it. "Someone else is here. Someone who knew exactly when to take that shot. Someone who wants you alive enough to kill one of my men to ensure it." Her breath hitched. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying we're not alone." His gaze swept the darkness around them, calculating, assessing threats she couldn't see. "And whoever's out there, they've been watching us. Waiting. They let Minjin pull his weapon. Let him threaten you. Let the situation escalate to the breaking point. And then, at the last possible second, they intervened." His jaw clenched. "Which means they wanted to send a message. To him, to me, maybe to you." "What message?" Jaehyun's eyes met hers, and the intensity in them made her chest tight. "That you belong to someone else." They found the sniper's nest 20 minutes later. It was on the roof of the building across from the warehouse. A perfect vantage point with a clear line of sight through the upper windows. Jaehyun's men had cordoned off the area, their flashlights cutting through the darkness like searchlights. But the shooter was long gone. Only the evidence of their presence remained. Lena stood slightly behind Jaehyun as he examined the space, his movements precise and clinical despite the tension radiating from his body. She watched him work, watched the way his eyes cataloged every detail, every scuff mark, every disturbed piece of debris. This was the Ghost King in action, she realized. This was what he did, what he'd been trained for. "Sir?" One of the men, a younger operative with nervous hands, held up a small brass casing, his gloved fingers careful not to disturb any potential evidence. "It's a .338 Lapua Magnum, custom load, military grade, the kind of ammunition you can't just buy off the street." Jaehyun took it, turning it over in his fingers, and Lena saw something shift in his expression. Recognition. And beneath it, something that looked almost like dread. "This type of round," he said slowly, his voice carrying a weight that made everyone pause, "is only used by a specific group, elite assassins, the kind governments don't admit exist, the kind who operate in the spaces between law and chaos." He paused, his thumb running over the casing. "The kind who used to work for the Ghost King." The words hung in the air, heavy and ominous. Lena wrapped her arms around herself, trying to ward off the chill that had nothing to do with the night air. Around them, Jaehyun's men exchanged glances, and she could see the question in their eyes. If these people worked for the Ghost King, why were they acting without his orders? "I don't understand," Lena said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Why would they kill Minjin?" Jaehyun was quiet for a long moment, his gaze fixed on the bullet casing like it held the answers to questions he hadn't yet learned to ask. Then he moved to the edge of the roof, looking down at the warehouse where Minjin's body still lay. "They weren't aiming for him," he said finally. "Not really. Look at the trajectory." He gestured, and Lena forced herself to follow the invisible line his hand traced through the air. The bullet entered at a downward angle through the upper window. It hit Minjin's center mass. Perfect shot, no margin for error, the kind of precision that takes years of training and natural talent. But if you trace the line back, account for the angle and distance. He paused, turning to look at her, and the expression on his face made her stomach drop. He was aiming past Minjin. Jaehyun continued. At someone who would have been standing directly in the line of fire if they'd moved even an inch. At someone Minjin was about to shoot. Lena's throat closed. "Me? You." Jaehyun turned back to the casing, his jaw tight. The sniper could have taken the shot at any time. They were up here watching, waiting, with a clear view of everything happening below. But they only fired when Minjin was about to pull the trigger on you. They eliminated the immediate threat, saved your life, protected you. But who? Why would? Lena's thoughts were spinning, fragmented, unable to form coherent questions. This doesn't make sense. I'm nobody. I don't have enemies. I don't have anyone who would. You do. Jaehyun's voice was flat, clinical, and somehow that made it worse. You just don't know it yet. One of the men called out from the corner of the roof, his voice tight with something that might have been alarm. "Sir, there's something else. You need to see this." They crossed to where he stood, and Lena's breath caught when she saw what he'd found. A small white card, pristine despite the dirt and grime of the rooftop, placed deliberately on top of a broken crate. The placement was too perfect, too intentional. This wasn't something dropped by accident. This was left as a message. On the card, written in elegant black ink with the kind of calligraphy that spoke of careful training and deliberate artistry, were two words: "She's mine." Below that, a symbol, a bird with outstretched wings, rendered in sweeping brushstrokes. The detail was extraordinary, each feather distinct, each line precise. It was beautiful. It was terrifying. And Jaehyun recognized it. Lena saw the way his face went pale, the way his hand clenched into a fist so tight his knuckles turned white. She'd seen him face down armed killers without flinching, had watched him move through violence like it was choreography. But this simple card with its elegant script, this scared him. "What is it?" she asked, her voice shaking. "What does that symbol mean?" Jaehyun didn't answer immediately. He was staring at the card like it was a death sentence, like it held the weight of every mistake he'd ever made. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. "It's a calling card. The mark of the Guardians." He looked at Lena, and for the first time since she'd met him, she saw genuine fear in his eyes. "And if they're here, if they're active again, it means we're not alone. And whoever left this..." His voice dropped even lower. "They know exactly who you are." The drive to the new safe house was silent and tense. Jaehyun sat in the back of the SUV with Lena, his body angled toward the window, his expression unreadable. But she could feel the tension radiating off him in waves, could see the way his jaw worked, the way his fingers drummed an unconscious rhythm against his thigh. She wanted to ask him what the Guardians were, wanted to demand answers about the symbol, about the message, about why he looked like he'd seen a ghost. But the words wouldn't come. Every time she opened her mouth, her throat closed, and she was left sitting in suffocating silence, while Seoul blurred past outside the windows. The new safe house was deeper in the mountains, so isolated it might as well have been on another planet. A traditional hanok nestled among ancient trees, its curved roof and wooden beams speaking of a Korea that existed long before neon and skyscrapers. Jaehyun's men secured the perimeter while he led Lena inside, his hand on the small of her back, a gesture that had become almost habitual but still sent electricity up her spine every time. The interior smelled of old wood and incense, peaceful and timeless. It should have been comforting. Instead, it felt like a beautiful cage. Jaehyun moved through the space with the efficiency of someone who'd done this before, checking windows, securing doors, his movements automatic. Lena stood in the center of the main room, surrounded by paper screens and low furniture, and felt utterly lost. "Sit," Jaehyun said, gesturing to the cushions around a low table. It wasn't quite a command, but it wasn't a request either. Lena sat and waited. Jaehyun paced for a moment, his hand running through his hair, messing up the carefully styled strands. She'd never seen him look so undone, so human. The Ghost King was cracking, revealing the man underneath, and she didn't know if that made him more or less dangerous. Finally, he stopped pacing and turned to face her. "I need you to tell me everything. About your life in Nigeria. About why you came to Korea. About your family, your friends, anyone who might have a reason to track you. Anyone who might have the resources and connections to activate a dormant assassination unit." Lena let out a laugh that held no humor. "You think I'm hiding something? You think I know why elite assassins are protecting me?" "I think," Jaehyun said carefully, "that you've been running from something. And I think whatever you're running from just found you." The words hit like a physical blow. Lena's breath caught, her chest tightening, because somewhere deep down, she'd known this was coming. Had felt it lurking at the edges of her consciousness ever since the phone call, ever since that voice. No, she couldn't think about that yet. "I'm not running from anything," she said, but the words rang hollow even to her own ear. "Came to Korea for school, for a fresh start. That's it. That's all. Lena." Jaehyun knelt in front of her, bringing himself to her eye level, and the intensity in his gaze made it hard to breathe. "I've spent my entire adult life reading people, learning to spot lies, half-truths, omissions. It's how I've survived in a world where one wrong word can get you killed." He paused. "And right now, every instinct I have is telling me you're holding something back." Tears pricked at her eyes. "What do you want from me?" "The truth." His voice softened, just slightly. "Whatever it is, whatever you're afraid of, I can't protect you if I don't know what I'm protecting you from." "You can't protect me anyway," Lena whispered. "If what you're saying is true, if I was being hunted before I even met you, then I was never safe. I've never been safe, and bringing me into your world didn't save me. It just added more danger to the pile. Jaehyun flinched like she'd struck him. You're right. You're absolutely right. And if I could go back to that night in the alley, if I could make a different choice. He stopped, shaking his head. But I can't. All I can do is move forward. Try to keep you alive long enough to figure out what's happening. And to do that, I need you to help me. Lena wiped at her eyes angrily, hating the tears, hating the fear, hating the way her voice shook when she spoke. I don't know anything. I don't understand why this is happening. I'm nobody. I've always been nobody. That's where you're wrong. Jaehyun's voice was firm. Someone thinks you're important. Important enough to hunt. Important enough to protect. Important enough to kill for. He pulled out his phone, swiping through screens until he found what he was looking for. I need to show you something. He held up the phone and Lena's heart stopped. It was a photograph. Not recent. This was from months ago, maybe even before she'd met Jaehyun. She was walking down a street in Seoul, carrying groceries, her face partially turned toward the camera. She remembered that day. Remembered the warmth of the sun, the weight of the bags, the simple peace of an ordinary afternoon. Someone had been following her, watching her, long before that night in the alley. Where did you get this? Her voice came out strangled. Minjun's belongings. Jaehyun swiped to another photo, and another, and another. A whole gallery of surveillance images. Lena at work, Lena at her apartment, Lena at the market. Her entire life, documented and cataloged like she was a specimen under glass. Someone was tracking your movements, building a profile, waiting. Waiting for what? I don't know yet. Jaehyun put the phone down, his expression grim. But I found something else. He pulled out a document, a printed email, the text partially redacted but still legible enough. This is a communication between Minjun and someone on the council. It's dated 3 weeks before you witnessed the execution. Lena's hands trembled as she took the paper. The Korean characters swam before her eyes, meaningless, but Jaehyun leaned over her shoulder, his breath warm on her neck as he translated. Target identified, Nigerian national, works at the restaurant in Itaewon. Bring her in alive. Council wants her for questioning. His voice dropped lower, heavier, and then underlined 3 times, she cannot know why. The paper slipped from Lena's fingers, fluttering to the floor. The room tilted sideways, and she grabbed the edge of the table, her vision narrowing to a pinpoint. This wasn't real. This couldn't be real. Lena. Jaehyun's hands were on her shoulders, steady and warm. Breathe. Just breathe. But she couldn't, because the implications were cascading through her mind like dominoes, each one more terrible than the last. She hadn't been in the wrong place at the wrong time. She'd been a target all along. The murder she'd witnessed, had that even been an accident? Or had it been staged, designed to bring her into contact with Jaehyun, with the Ghost King, with... They were hunting me, she whispered. Before any of this. Before the alley. Before you. Before... Oh, God. Yes. Jaehyun's voice was gentle but firm, grounding her to reality. You were being hunted. But not by me. I didn't know about any of this until I started digging after your kidnapping. Whatever the council wants with you, I wasn't part of the original plan. Then what changed? I did. He pulled back slightly, giving her space to breathe, but his eyes never left hers. I was supposed to eliminate you after the murder. That was my assignment. Find the witness. Make sure she disappears. Clean up the loose end. Standard protocol. His jaw clenched, but I couldn't. And when I kept you instead, when I brought you into my home and made you part of my life, I disrupted their plans. They couldn't get to you anymore, not without going through me. So they waited. Lena said slowly, pieces clicking into place. They waited until they could turn one of your own people, use your organization against you. Yes, the word was heavy with guilt. Minjun wasn't working alone. Someone in the council approached him, offered him something he wanted badly enough to betray me. And they used him to get to you. Lena looked down at the scattered photos, at the evidence of surveillance that stretched back months. But why? What could they possibly want from me? I don't know anything about the underworld. I don't have information or connections or... She stopped, a terrible thought occurring to her. Unless they think I know something about my family or my past or... What about your family? Jaehyun asked carefully. Tell me about them. Lena's throat tightened. She hadn't thought about home, really thought about it, in months. It had been easier to bury herself in work, in survival, in the day-to-day struggle of making a life in a foreign country. Easier than confronting the reasons she'd left in the first place. My parents are dead, she said quietly. Car accident when I was 15. I was raised by my aunt after that. She sent me to Korea for university, said it would be a better opportunity, a better life. And your aunt? I haven't spoken to her in over a year. The admission hurt more than Lena expected. We had a falling out before I left. She wanted me to come home after graduation, but I decided to stay in Seoul, work, build something for myself. She said I was making a mistake, that I was turning my back on family, on tradition, on... She stopped, a memory surfacing. On my responsibility. Jaehyun went very still. What responsibility? I don't know. She never explained. She just kept saying I had obligations I didn't understand, duties that came with my bloodline. Lena laughed bitterly. I thought she was just trying to manipulate me, make me feel guilty for wanting my own life. So I stopped calling, stopped responding to her messages. Eventually, she stopped reaching out too. Your bloodline, Jaehyun repeated slowly. Those were her exact words? Yes. Why? Instead of answering, Jaehyun pulled out his phone again, typing rapidly. His expression was focused, intense, the way it got when he was working through a problem. After a moment, he turned the screen toward her. Is this your aunt? Lena looked at the photo and felt the floor drop out from under her. It was her aunt. Older than Lena remembered, her hair more gray than black, but unmistakably her. Except she wasn't in Lagos. She wasn't standing in the small apartment where Lena had spent her teenage years. She was in what looked like a formal setting, wearing traditional clothing Lena had never seen her in, surrounded by people in suits. And the caption beneath the photo made Lena's blood run cold. Chioma Okafor, representative of the Okafor family at the International Trade Summit, Seoul, 2019. I don't understand, Lena whispered. My aunt never came to Korea. She never. She stopped, her mind reeling. How did you find this? I ran your name through every database I have access to, Jaehyun said quietly, looking for anything that might explain why the council is interested in you. And I found this. Your aunt has been traveling to Korea for years, multiple times a year, in fact, meeting with business leaders, politicians, and, he paused, and people connected to the council. The room spun. Lena pressed her hands to her face, trying to process what she was hearing. Her aunt, who'd raised her, who'd sent her to Korea, who'd been so angry when Lena refused to come home. What does this mean? She asked, her voice muffled by her hands. It means, Jaehyun said carefully, that your family isn't what you thought it was. It means you're connected to something larger than either of us understood. And it means, his phone rang, cutting him off mid-sentence. The sound was jarring, invasive, shattering the fragile understanding they'd been building. Jaehyun looked at the screen, and something in his expression changed. Unknown number, he said. No caller ID. Their eyes met, and Lena saw her own fear reflected back at her. Don't answer it, she whispered. But Jaehyun was already swiping to accept, his jaw set. He put it on speaker, his free hand moving instinctively toward his weapon. For a moment, there was only silence. Then, a voice. Distorted, mechanical, rendered unrecognizable by some kind of digital modulator. But beneath the distortion, there was something. A cadence. A rhythm. Something that made Lena's skin crawl with terrible familiarity. You should have left her where she belongs. Lena's breath stopped, because she knew that voice. Even through the electronic warping, even stripped of its natural tone, she knew it. Jaehyun's hand tensed on the phone. Who is this? What do you want? What I've always wanted. The voice was cold, clinical, empty of anything resembling warmth or humanity. What was stolen from me? What's mine by right? Lena belongs to no one. A laugh, bitter and sharp, like breaking glass. Is that what you think, Ghost King? That you can claim her just because you got there first? She's not yours. She was never meant for you. She's been mine since the day she was born, since before she could even understand what that meant. Lena's hands were shaking so badly she had to clasp them together to make it stop. That voice, that pattern, the way they said certain words, certain phrases, the laugh that held no joy, only cruel satisfaction. No, it couldn't be. Who are you? Jaehyun repeated, his voice deadly calm, but Lena could see the tension in every line of his body. Ask her. The voice dropped lower, almost amused. I think she's starting to remember. Aren't you, little sister? I think you're starting to piece it all together. Little sister. The words hit like a physical blow. Lena's vision swam, and she might have fallen if Jaehyun's hand hadn't shot out to steady her. "No," she whispered. "No, it's not. It can't be." "Tell him," the voice commanded, and there was something almost eager in it now. "Tell the Ghost King who I am. Tell him why you ran to Korea in the first place. Tell him what you've been running from." Tears streamed down Lena's face. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Because saying it out loud would make it real. Would confirm the nightmare that had been chasing her across continents and through years. Would mean accepting that the person she trusted most in the world had been lying to her all along. "Lena?" Jaehyun's voice was gentle but urgent, his hand warm on her arm. "Who is this?" The voice laughed again, and this time there was no mistaking the satisfaction, the cruel pleasure in revealing the truth. "She knows. Don't you, little sister? You've always known deep down. You just didn't want to believe it." The phone slipped from Jaehyun's hand, clattering to the floor, but neither of them moved to pick it up. Because Lena was staring at him with eyes wide with horror, and when she finally found her voice, it came out as a broken whisper. "Jaehyun, I think I know who that was." He waited, every muscle in his body tense, his eyes searching hers. Lena's lips trembled. The name sat on her tongue, terrible and impossible, a name she hadn't spoken in years, a name she'd hoped she'd never have to speak again. She opened her mouth, and a red laser dot appeared on her forehead. Everything happened in slow motion. Jaehyun saw it first, saw the tiny point of light tracking across Lena's skin, precise and deadly, the kind of targeting that came from high-powered optics and steady hands. His eyes went wide, his face transforming into an expression of pure animal terror. "Lena!" He lunged toward her, his arms outstretching, his body already in motion, every instinct screaming at him to get to her, to cover her, to put himself between her and the bullet he knew was coming. His hand reached for her, fingers stretched out, desperate to close the distance. But time stretched like taffy, elastic and cruel. Lena watched his face as he moved, saw the desperation there, the fear, the love he'd never admitted but couldn't hide anymore. She saw it all in the space of a heartbeat, in the fraction of a second between the laser's appearance and the inevitable conclusion. Her mouth was still open, the name still unspoken, the laser dot held steady, unwavering, professional. And somewhere in the darkness outside, beyond the walls of the Hanok, beyond the protective perimeter, beyond all of Jaehyun's careful precautions, a finger tightened on a trigger. Jaehyun's fingers brushed her arm, almost there, almost close enough. The world exploded in sound and light. Glass shattered. Someone screamed, maybe her, maybe him, maybe both of them. And then everything went black. And just like that, the trigger was pulled. Did Jaehyun reach her in time? Did the Ghost King finally fail to protect the one person he cannot afford to lose? Or is someone else about to fall? You're standing on the edge of the knife with them, and trust me, you need to know what comes next. But let's talk about the real question burning a hole in your mind. Who was the voice on that phone? Lena recognized it. You heard the fear. Little sister. 2 words that changed everything. So tell me, who from her past is hunting her? Who has the power to activate elite assassins? What is her family really hiding from her? And is her aunt lying to her or protecting her from something worse? Now it's your turn. Drop your theories. Who sent the sniper? What's Lena's true connection to the council? And the big one, does Lena survive this? Comment, I need part 4 if you're ready. Comment, Lena better survive if you're Team Lena. Comment, Ghost King don't fail now. If you believe Jaehyun got to her in time. Your comments, your likes, your theories, they decide how fast part 4 drops. The more you engage, the sooner we continue. And listen, part 4 is going to destroy you in the best way. Secrets will explode, betrayals will cut deep, and someone you trust is about to reveal their true face. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, because when part 4 drops, you do not want to be late. This story isn't close to over. In fact, it's only just beginning. Thank you for being here. Now go comment, share with a romance thriller lover, and let's see who guesses right.